Next on Currents News, the latest from the Pope's in-flight news conference. Reporters press him about a call for his resignation. Crux's Inez San Martin was on the plane. She'll be here tonight. The man saying the Holy Father should step down is the former Vatican ambassador to the U.S. Details on what he's claiming. A new mass shooting in Florida. Young people gunned down at a gamers competition. Plus a breakthrough tonight on a big deal to keep school zones safer just in time for the new year. The news starts right now. Pope Francis challenges reporters to investigate claims the Holy Father knew about clerical sex abuse but didn't act. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. The unsubstantiated attack against Francis is from a high-ranking church official, the former Vatican ambassador to the U.S. The Pope's call for journalists to pursue the truth was issued aboard the papal plane late Sunday during the flight home from Ireland. Currents News' Michelle Powers reports the very latest on this developing story.
On the final day of Pope Francis's trip to Ireland, as he issued this apology for clerical sex abuse,
Pedimos perdón, we ask for forgiveness.
A former top Vatican diplomat claimed in a published statement that the Holy Father actually covered up abuses and called for him to resign. On the papal plane, reporters pressed the Pope on the issue.
Io ho letto questa mattina quel comunicato. Ho letto e io dirò sinceramente che devo dirvi questo, a lei e a tutti coloro di voi che sono interessati. Leggete voi attentamente il comunicato e fate voi il vostro giudizio. Io non dirò una parola su questo.
The unsubstantiated allegations come from the pen of Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano, the former papal nuncio to the United States. Vigano accuses the Pope of knowing about the now disgraced Cardinal Theodore McCarrick's abuses against seminarians. The former diplomat's charges contend the pontiff did not punish the cardinal, but instead lifted sanctions previously imposed by Pope Benedict, thereby empowering McCarrick to help choose powerful American bishops. Vigano alleges Pope Francis knew from at least June 23, 2013, that McCarrick was a serial predator. Although he knew that he was a corrupt man, he covered for him to the bitter end. It was only when he was forced by the report of the abuse of a minor, again on the basis of media attention, that he took action regarding McCarrick to save his image in the media. The 7,000-word statement went on to attack Francis's allies in the Vatican and was published by several conservative Catholics at odds with the Pope. The Holy Father urged reporters to do their due diligence and report back.
È un atto di fiducia. Quando passi un po' il tempo e voi avete le conclusioni, forse parlerò, ma io vorrei che la vostra maturità professionale faccia questo lavoro.
Pope Francis also brought up his time spent with survivors of the Irish sex abuse scandal, saying he learned much from their testimonies.
Credo che ci voleva fare questo ascolto a queste 8 persone e di questa riunione è uscita la proposta che l'ho fatta io, loro l'hanno accettato e mi hanno aiutato a farla, di chiedere perdono oggi nella messa.
Archbishop Vigano doesn't have an untarnished record when it comes to cover-ups. A memo that he wrote in 2014 reveals an effort to suppress a church investigation into alleged sexual misconduct in the Minnesota Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis. Since Pope Francis removed Vigano from his job as nuncio to the United States in 2016, the Archbishop's been associated with traditionalist Catholics who are often deeply critical of the Holy Father's pastoral approach to the papacy. Michelle Powers, Currents News.
Crux Rome Bureau Chief Inez San Martin was flying with the Pope on the trip home, and she joins us now from Rome. Inez, thank you so much for being here as always. What was the mood like on board the plane? Reporters pressed the Pope for answers about the Vigano allegations, and his response was, "Do your job."
To be honest, Liz, there was a little bit of disappointment. We were all hoping the Pope would just flat out deny all of the allegations. We understand that he sort of did so by saying, I'm not going to comment, I'm not going to say a single word about it, do your job. But at the same time, at a moment in which many people accuse Francis of generating confusion within the church over other issues, I believe the mood in general was one in which we'd hoped he'd say, it's all lies, move on.
How will you and your colleagues receive and pursue the Pope's challenge to pursue the truth?
Well, we're going to have to go at it. We're going to just have to go follow the evidence, see wherever it leads. There are enough little tidbits in the letter that seem to be truth. We've heard from some people already saying that they can confirm this little bit of information, that little bit of information, which of course leads us journalists to believe there might be more truth than lies, or even if it's all a lie, there might be some truth to it that has to be unpacked.
Keeping in mind that this Vigano story is still developing, how big could it become? I mean, the Archbishop wants the Pope to resign.
Well, I don't think the Pope is going to be resigning anytime soon. He's an Argentinian, and as such, he's stubborn. In addition to that, I do believe he thinks he's innocent. If not, he would not have told us journalists to keep going and go at it. Because in many ways, I mean, that's how I took it. Pope Francis gave us an open invitation to investigate him and to go after him. What he thinks is going to happen is that his name will be cleared. If that is, in fact, what happens, then the story will eventually be killed by the evidence. However, we have to wait and see what happens.
Well, Inez, the Pope spent obviously 2 days in Ireland and at the World Meeting of Families. During the press conference, did the Holy Father rate the success of that mission?
He didn't necessarily rate the success of the mission, but he did, however, Liz told us that he was happily impressed by the level of, by the faith of the Irish people and their commitment to it, despite what he called the many sufferings the Irish people have gone through, particularly in the hands of the church. This was, of course, a key element during the entire trip. He referred not only to clerical sexual abuse, but also many other crimes the Catholic Church is guilty of in Ireland during 4 opportunities during his trip. And regardless of that, the people were still there at Phoenix Park on Sunday. 300,000 people showed up despite the weather just to be with the Pope.
Now, of the many questions, Francis was also asked about abortion following the Irish vote to legalize the deadly procedure and his homeland's decision to continue to restrict the practice in Argentina. What was your thoughts there?
Well, I particularly found it interesting because a lot of people in Argentina were complaining. There's the one side that said the Catholic Church got too involved, but there are also many Catholics who are hoping Pope Francis would have gotten involved, specifically in the debate in his own country. However, that didn't happen, and in fact, very few bishops or priests were actually in the front lines when it came to the debate. That is why I found it particularly interesting when he told us abortion is not a religious issue. In a way, he's explaining himself for the fact that he didn't, in fact, comment during the debate in Argentina. It is, he said, an anthropological issue, and it should be studied as a human issue, not a religious one. I personally found it to be interesting. It's not like he hasn't said it before, but it was definitely a way of answering to those back home who'd been asking for him to comment on it.
He was also asked about Marie Collins, the Irish abuse survivor, former member of his Commission for the Protection of Minors. She's been pushing for a Vatican tribunal to judge bishops who fail to handle abuse cases properly.
Yes, and Liz, she's not the only one who's pushing for this. I have to say, I'm pushing for the exact same thing. We need to see accountability for the bishops. We don't see it yet. Pope Francis told us that what is going on right now is that ad hoc tribunals are being formed when a bishop needs to be put on trial. He told us of a trial against a former Archbishop of Guam, and he also told us about a second trial going on a second bishop. However, he failed to disclose who this bishop was and what the charges against him are. So again, he failed to, in my opinion, deliver when it comes to transparency and accountability.
All right, thank you, Inez. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you, Liz.
The top aide to Archbishop Vigano in Washington is backing up his former boss. Archbishop Vigano wrote that Monsignor Jean-François Lantham could verify that church leaders knew for years about the accusations against Theodore McCarrick. Lantham, who's now a priest in France, was contacted for an interview. His brief response was, quote, "Vigano said the truth, that's all." Chicago Cardinal Blaise Supich is criticizing the Vigano statement, calling it, quote, "astonishing that the document alleged maneuvers by Theodore McCarrick and others led to his appointment and that of Newark Cardinal Joseph Tobin." The Archdiocese of Newark issued a statement in Cardinal Tobin's name saying the so-called testimony of Vigano is full of errors, innuendo, and a fearful ideology. The Holy Father's plea for God's mercy in the midst of the clergy sex abuse scandals was made during yesterday's outdoor mass in Dublin.
En Irlanda, abusos de poder, de conciencia, abusos sexuales por parte de miembros cualificados de la Iglesia. De manera especial, pedimos perdón por todos los abusos cometidos en diversos tipos de instituciones dirigidas por religiosos y religiosas.
The turnout for the papal mass was below expectations. The Vatican put the size of the crowd at 300,000 on a cold, windy, and rainy day. The Pope visited two mothers this morning upon his return from Ireland, as is his custom. He went to the Basilica of St. Mary Major to pray, and he made a surprise visit to the Church of St. Augustine, where the body of St. Monica, Augustine's mother, is buried. Today is Monica's feast day. There's a lot more news headed your way. Tributes pour in for Senator John McCain, but there is controversy involving the White House. And the latest developments in a deadly mass shooting in Florida. From Queens, a new dawn on the day a church celebrates the feast of its namesake. And do you have a story idea, something happening in your parish we should know about? We want to hear from you. Keep this email handy. News tips at desalesmedia.org. We'll be right back. They were playing video games, but the gunfire was real. A new mass shooting at a Florida tournament. Tonight, Catholic leaders, sports stars, and political figures are offering prayers after the latest mass shooting in Florida. 6 months following the Parkland High School killings, young people were again gunned down, this time at a gamers tournament. Camila Bernal is in Jacksonville with the latest.
Gamers here in Jacksonville, Florida were in a virtual world when all of a sudden a mass shooting became their reality. Some ducked, others took cover, and others just ran as far as they could. Unfortunately, not everyone was able to escape.
We have got to change. We've got to really stop and say to ourselves, there's something wrong.
2 people were killed in another mass shooting in Florida.
Excuse me, not an easy out.
This time at an online gaming tournament in Jacksonville. Participants from all over the country had gathered in a pizza restaurant Sunday afternoon to compete in a Madden NFL tournament at Jacksonville's Landing Complex. That's where police say 24-year-old David Katz, a gamer from Baltimore, Maryland, opened fire. Crowds of people scattered in all directions, trying to get to safety in the populated outdoor marketplace.
I just heard sound like gunfire, and the next thing I know, I see some people coming out of Hooters, and they were kind of falling.
Almost a dozen others were injured by bullets or while trying to flee.
There were 9 victims transported by JFRD to area hospitals. 7 of those had gunshot wounds. I'm happy to report that they are all in stable condition at this time.
The FBI searched the suspect's home in Baltimore, hoping to find some clues as to why Katz committed this horrible act.
This is a horrible day. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, we have to grieve for individuals that senselessly lost their lives.
And to recap, it is 2 dead and 11 injured. The sheriff says those 11 are in stable condition. They were taken to local hospitals. Now, the area here has reopened to the public, but sheriff deputies remain nearby, and of course that restaurant remains closed. Reporting in Jacksonville, Florida, I'm Camila Bernal. Now back to you.
All right, thank you, Camila. So far, police have not disclosed a motive for the shooting. Today's opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange followed by silence in honor of Senator John McCain. The Arizona Republican lost his battle with brain cancer Saturday night. Originally, President Trump had decided not to issue a statement praising McCain's military and Senate service. Late today, in a proclamation to re-lower the flag over the White House, the chief executive said, "Despite our differences, I respect Senator John McCain's service to our country." A McCain spokesman said today that Mr. Trump will not attend Saturday's funeral ceremony at Washington's National Cathedral. Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush will offer eulogies. In Senator McCain's home state, people are remembering their neighbor. Morgan Lell reports.
It's right by the mailboxes, near the flowers on the side of the road. A small wooden sign. You can barely make out the words Hidden Valley. But it tells these people they're at the right place.
He always fought for the veteran, and especially the Vietnam vet.
Rocky and Nancy Beria are here today to pay their respects to a fellow Vietnam vet.
I was there in '68 and '69.
They are among the steady stream of people stopping by the entrance to the McCain Ranch, driven by a need to say thank you.
I didn't agree with everything he said and everything he did, but overall I thought he was one heck of a nice guy.
Up the state highway in Clarkdale, the town flag sits at half-staff. Just a couple of miles away in Cottonwood, clouds roll in overhead. People are eating in the cafes and talking about what their high-profile neighbor meant to the community.
I'm just very saddened. I was neighbors with him around the corner, literally, from him in Cornville.
The road through nearby Cornville has American flags lining the fences. And back in Hidden Valley, at the entrance to the McCain Ranch, these words resonate.
There'll never be another John McCain. He's really one of a kind.
The senator will lie in state Wednesday in the Arizona Capitol on what would have been his 82nd birthday. On Friday, the senator will be accorded a rare honor. His body will repose in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Visitors to Washington are remembering the former POW who was also a political maverick.
He often went against party lines and voted for what he thought was right, which I really think more senators should be able to do.
He was captured and he made it through all that. What a gutsy guy.
On Saturday, a procession from the Capitol will pass the Vietnam Veterans Memorial on the way to the National Cathedral. Senator McCain will be buried at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. NAFTA no more. President Trump said today there is a new trade agreement with Mexico, but drops the NAFTA name.
I like to call this deal the United States-Mexico Trade Agreement. I think it's an elegant name. I think NAFTA has a lot of bad connotations for the United States because it was a ripoff. It was a deal that was a horrible deal for our country. And I think it's got a lot of bad connotations to a lot of people. And so we will probably, you and I will agree to the name.
Still to be done, getting Canada to sign on to a new deal. The Mexico part will be finalized within days. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh is getting a lot of mixed reactions about his nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. Supporters of the president's pick rallied in Chicago to offer a pro-life voice to the story. In Washington, the group Unite for Justice called a national day of action against the nomination, saying with a Justice Kavanaugh sitting on the high court, the Roe v. Wade abortion decision could be repealed. Kavanaugh's confirmation hearings are set to begin next week. School speed cameras are coming back and just in time for the new school year. The city and state are making a deal to ensure the cameras are catching speeding drivers starting on the first day of school, September 5th. The cameras went dark weeks ago after many disagreements between legislators. All 140 cameras will be activated once again. St. Bartholomew in Elmhurst had 2 reasons to celebrate this weekend. The parish showed off its nearly completed $3 million renovation during St. Bartholomew's Feast Day celebration on Friday. The upgrade includes the installation of new air conditioners and renewing the interior and exterior of the parish. Bishop DiMarzio was on hand to bless the rededication of the church.
This was a very hot church before. It's hot now in a different way. But we see beautiful air conditioning. The outside is now preserved for at least another 50 years. So we're very happy that they're able to do this.
Mass attendance at St. Bartholomew has grown tremendously in the last 5 years, with an average Sunday attendance of over 4,000 people. Still to come on Currents News, Catholics are helping families survive after they flee religious persecution and death, and some of the most memorable moments from the Pope's mission journey to the World Meeting of Families in Ireland. We'll be right back. A Catholic camp in Myanmar is helping to keep many families alive. Over 130 people have been living at a St. Paul's camp since fleeing religious persecution in their homeland. The shelter is run by the Myanmar branch of Caritas International. A program gives children weekly school tuition and provides catechism classes there every Sunday. With the help of Caritas, families receive a monthly stipend equal to $7.50 to cover their basic food needs. In Australia, an illegal fishing boat carrying refugees washed ashore. The vessel was traveling through crocodile-infested waters when it was spotted. At least 3 suspected asylum seekers believed to be from Vietnam were detained by police. Anyone trying to get into Australia has been sent to offshore processing centers since 2013. All weekend, a team effort by Currents News and Crux provided continuous live coverage of the Pope's trip to Ireland and the World Meeting of Families. Now, in case you missed anything, here are some of the best images from that trip. The next World Meeting of Families will be right in the Pope's backyard in Rome in 2021. That is Currents News. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Liz Faublas. Set your DVR to record this program so that you never miss it, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.